Hello everyone and welcome to GT Sport. Now this was round 1 of the past test season. I think it's test season 14. We've had so many now. And you're probably wondering as well why there's not been that many races in GT Sport. And this is round 1, which was ages ago, last Sunday. But basically not much has been happening. So I'm bringing you the highlights of multiple races here all in one video. So as you can see, Matthew Collin going to the left hand side. Now my tip at this track, and I say this all the time, stay on the inside. Do not go to the left hand side. Look at the radar. Look at the radar. There's always one guy who does this. Bam! Look at that. Every single time, without question, somebody goes diving in there, 100 mile an hour, wiping out half the field. So always stay on the inside because that's the least likely that you'll get hit. If you're on the outside, someone comes barreling in, you're going to more than likely get hit. Because if they've made a mistake, they can't really go anywhere, so they're going to just try and get out of the way of most people. Whereas if you're on the inside, they're not going to aim for you unless they want to wipe you out. So do keep that in mind. Now, this first lap, I made quite a few mistakes. So the reason why I made quite a few mistakes, and this is also the larger reason why there's been less videos of races, is I was trying to get to the fuel map just so I could see how many laps of fuel I've got left. So you'll see a few mistakes here. Matthew Collin just breaking away, but I'm actually not that worried. I believe I'm ranked 2nd on the time trial. I actually showed the lap earlier in the week of this round, and I came 2nd in the sort of qualifying time, practice time. So I know I can catch this guy whenever I want to. I'm not really panicking because I was setting those times constantly. You know, it's constant 205s. And as you can see, we've already caught him up again already before we even get here. So my main gripe at the moment with GT Sport and these Nations Cup and Manufacturers Cup, I suppose less so. I'm not even racing in that at the moment. I'm racing in Nations Cup. Is the fuel and tyre wear. So in this race, for example, you can see we've got 4.8 laps of fuel remaining. We've got 9 laps basically left. It's fairly obvious that you're just going to pit halfway through, fill up, and just go to the end. What's the point of it? What is the point? See, my problem is, as we just always say, Matthew Collin there, a bit of slipstreaming. My problem is, you get a good player who's good with tyres and, you know, knows how to play, and a good player generally would be less, or have less issues with tyres. So, as you can see, he's right behind me. I think he's bump drafting me here. Wanted to get away from the rest of the field. Or trying to save fuel, perhaps. Could be that. You know, fuel usage is on. But let's go back to my point in question. So you get a good player. So, for example, I would say I'm a good player. I mean, you know, I'm in the top 0% in GT Sport, apparently, according to that stat site that you can use. I'm very good on my tyres. Now, say Matthew Collin isn't. I don't know whether he's good on his tyres or not, by the way. This is just an example. Say he isn't and he's sliding all over the place a little bit. His tyre wear is going to be more. So, you know, by lap number 5, I'm going to have more grip because I've got better tyre wear and I'm already going quicker. So that gap has exponentially increased, meaning the race is less fun. Now, it sounds really weird and complicated, but it's a fact. Now, these races, in my opinion, should be just flat out. These Nations Cup races should be flat out pure talent. Talent decides where you come in these races. It's about the Nations Cup. Manufacturers Cup, I can sort of accept it a little bit because you're picking a manufacturer. So you're going to pick a manufacturer because they've got good tyre wear, good fuel usage, or you look just like that manufacturer. That I get, but Nations Cup, I hate it. And that's the reason why there's not been many videos, because these races have been really, really boring. I'm not even joking. I actually stopped racing them halfway through the week because it was just boring. As you'll see as we advance in a little bit to the pit stop, the gap just increases and there's no racing. I'm literally just doing time trial laps in a race. That's all I'm doing. Now, potentially you could make the argument that that was always going to happen, but you know, when Matthew Collin was behind me at the start of lap number 2, he could have overtaken me if he wasn't trying to save fuel. So it's not promoting racing, in my opinion, and they should be promoting racing. Some of the Nations Cup races I've had where it's been flat out start to finish, it's been mega, and obviously it's very, very risky as well to drive flat out constantly because you're more likely to make mistakes. You think of doing time trial laps, you're going to make mistakes. As we're coming to the pits now, you can see the gap is 1.3 seconds, so we broke the slipstream as well, and fuel is down to 4%, so it's just a straightforward do half a race, fill up, do half a race. There's no real strategy in it for me at all in this race, so pretty pointless. As you can see, we're just filling up. Thought I'd show you this. You saw we went into the pits at like 150 mile an hour as well, which is pretty crazy. It'd be quite handy if you got a penalty for that and you had to actually slow down. Kind of that'd be good if they actually brought that in. But even so, we carry on now, and you can see the gap is 1.4 seconds, so we actually gained in the pit stops, and it goes up to 7, so you can see I was pushing like crazy. You got loads of 2:05 lap times. You know, very boring race in my opinion, very boring. And you know, you can see I'm not even, normally I smile at the end of these videos, don't I? You see some of the fun races I've had, I'm always smiling at the end of it. I'm bored out of my brain, honestly, and that's why I've not been doing 2 videos a day. That's one of the reasons anyway, because there's not been videos to do. You know, I've been racing, but there's just no fun videos. So I thought I'd bring you the highlights of both of these races combined, because at least that gives you a nice video and you can see what I'm thinking. And now this second race, where we're in the BMW M6 GT3 car, is a good race in terms of I can explain my mindset a little bit in this one. So we've not done too much practice on this combo, unlike the other one where we did spend a good hour beforehand really focusing in, trying to get the best lap time. Trying to compete with Lightning at that point, because he did a phenomenal lap. Fair play to Lightning if you're watching. But we're racing here. We've got Matthew behind us, who we know is quick. We've got Indian Food as well, who we've had some battles with. But I'm fairly confident here at Dragon Trail. It's one of my favourite tracks, and I am fairly good at it, in my opinion. So I'm just racing on. The problem with a race at Dragon Trail is if you're in the lead, you're always susceptible on this first lap due to the slipstream and how fast it is. So just coming down here, I can see Matthew's closing on me, goes to the inside, so I'm going to brake slightly later and just go on the outside. Fortunately, I've got no radar, which is my other problem with fuel usage, because I have no idea where he is at this point. Not a look behind me, can't see him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let off, expecting him to be in front, and I look behind. Oh, he's there. Oh, wow. Did not realise. So suddenly I put my foot to the floor again because I don't want to slow him up anymore. You know, we're trying to be gentlemanly there. You can see my frustration in a minute. It's just like, you know, I can't see what's happening. Either give me a rear view camera for this camera or take fuel wear off, because I can't even use the radar, and that's what I would normally use in these races, you know, to see where people are. And as a game, we're obviously limited in visuals. If we were in VR, I'd look right if I could look right, and then I could have the fuel on the screen or look down at the dash and see that. As you see, we've pulled away quite a gap now, and Matthew's under a bit of pressure from Indian Food. Now you're going to have to look at the TV camera for this bit. I probably should have edited this slightly better, but even so, look at the TV camera. Oh, lovely glowing brakes. Indian Food just got in slightly wide there on the first corner. That's key for what's going to happen in a little bit. However, we continue on with the race. We're nearly a second gap now, so once we get to that second, we know it's our advantage because there's no slipstream, and as you can see, we've just hit it and we're increasing it. So we've got our advantage now. We can just race as usual, and you can see our laps, 4.5 remaining. Again, very simple race. Get to halfway, pit, get fuel, get tyre wear. It's a bit more interesting this one, I suppose, because you don't have to fill up full this time, unlike the last one. So, and you can see me counting on my hands there. That's me literally double checking, so I'll be like lap 2, lap 3, lap 4, lap 5. I'll be counting on my hands as I race just to make sure I got it right. I love the BMW's brakes, by the way. If you actually have a look on TV camera, you can really see how hot they get. It looks awesome. But we continue on round this chicane. I absolutely hate the chicane occasionally. This might be one of my favourite tracks, but this chicane is a killer if you get it wrong. And that 4C car profile test, we've got more coming to those, by the way, so do keep an eye out for those. It's honestly, these tests are really interesting. But that chicane on the 4C just made the car go flying. But even so, as you can see, the gap is increasing all the time. So what we're going to do in a second is actually advance to the pit stops, because why not? And that's why it gets interesting actually this time. Hurrah! We get a bit of interesting racing. Away! So as you can see, the gap is up to 1.8 seconds. I'd say Matthew's a very quick driver in himself. We often see him in the top 24 superstars, and I think we raced him in the first race that we did. Going to come into the pits now, so flat out into the pits as you do. So obviously I don't need full fuel, because I've got 1.3 laps remaining, so I can work that out myself, that I need about, well, you can see that distance till empty. I have to get it just above 5, so that's all I do. I'm just going to wait here for that. As everyone's coming into the pits, as you can see, so everybody's got the same strategy because it's the most obvious and straightforward strategy imaginable. Again, makes it a bit pointless, this whole thing, just adds time to the race. It's an add to the racing in the slightest. It does, however, obviously give Indian Food, who we saw go wide earlier, it gives him an opportunity to perhaps do a different strategy. But he's going to overtake me here, but I'm obviously on the better tyres and fuel usage. We've got 5 laps remaining. Obviously we filled up slightly short. There's no way he's going to have gone 2 laps extra here, so he's going to have to fuel save a little bit in order to stay in the lead. So I know I've got the advantage at this point. and I can make my move whenever I want. So what I'm going to do actually, and this is an interesting race strategy that I do as well, I'm going to start short shifting a little bit. Now all this is doing is making sure I can get to the end, but also have the ability to use more fuel where required to overtake Indian Food, or if Matu caught me up. I've got the extra fuel there available where I can really push hard, like push, hit the limiter, change gear, and really push on towards a victory. So that's a little bit of strategy, I suppose, but it's a bit pointless. As I say, I'd rather be racing Indian Food at this point for the position, like full on racing, flat out, coming to the braking zone, on the limit, car sliding a little bit because I'm braking at the very last second, but instead I'm short shifting just to make sure that I've got a bit extra fuel at the end. Hooray! So yeah, we're going to push on anyway. Interestingly, the top 24 superstars this week, we did do it in the Nations Cup. I did it tonight actually, from when I'm filming this. Very interesting race. So that one's coming out very soon, so do keep an eye out for that. As you see, Indian Food's not going in, so at this point I'm like, definitely fuel saving, isn't he? There's no way he's carrying on. He hasn't just gone the extra lap. But as I say, Nations Cup this weekend, the top 24 superstars that we've just done. Very interesting. Well worth a watch. So that'll be coming out soon. It'll be quite a long video, I think. There's quite a number of highlights in there. As you see, Indian Food pushing as hard as he can. But gets a bit of a tank slapper. So at that point, you may have seen I was just half throttle. I only did that just to make sure I understand where he's going, because he could be catching a slide. If he caught it, it would then fling the other way, perhaps. So I was just making sure he was sliding out the way. The minute I know flat out past him, I'm already getting that gap up to nearly a second. As you see, it goes up to 3.6. Not sure what happened with Matu there. And you can see we've got enough fuel. So yeah, that's the reason why there's not been 2 videos a day this week. There's also something else happening in personal life, which meant my time sort of went away a little bit. Got a new graphics card for my PC. A powerful one, so PCAR's 2 videos on PC will be getting better. But that's it from these 2 races of GT Sport in the Nations Cup. The next GT Sport video will probably be the Nations Cup Top 24 Superstars. Video playlist there if you want to watch another one. My logo's there if you want to subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. Like if you like it, dislike if you dislike it, and make sure you leave a comment if you've got an opinion or want something changing. But that's it for now. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.